Robert Jenrick has accused Labour Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood of, quote, shamelessly refusing to overrule two-tier justice, as new sentencing guidelines that will hand ethnic minorities lighter sentences than white people are just days away from becoming law. Take a look at their fiery clash.
The Sentencing Council issued a letter correcting the Justice Secretary. They made clear that the new sentencing guidelines were not the same as the draft guidance under the last government. And they explained that her department supported the new two-tier guidance. Her representative was at the meeting. It was approved on the 24th of January. Her officials were even given a walk-through on the 3rd of March, a dummy's guide to two-tier justice. After I brought this to her attention last Wednesday, her team briefed the papers that she was, and I quote, incandescent. Well, was she incandescent at her officials or at her own failure to read her papers and do her job properly?
Secretary of State.
I mean, the Shadow Lord Chancellor's amnesia continues because he has clearly not done his homework. He's forgotten that it was his government that was consulted extensively on this guidance. It also appears he cannot read because the letter states very clearly all of the consultation that took place under his government, and it shows that they were consulted numerous times on the new guidance. They welcomed the new guidance. I notice he didn't refer to that welcoming of that guidance. The change he refers to, he knows full well, is a minor change because what has been retained between what his government saw and the change that occurred is the reference to race, ethnic and cultural background. So he can't hide behind that. The last few days have therefore been an expert lesson from the member opposite. He has taught us all how to throw the Shadow Transport Secretary under a bus.
Robert Jenrick.
Well, as a lawyer herself, I would have thought she would have known the difference between the last guidance and the new ones. I say as a lawyer, but in this cabinet you never really know who's a real lawyer or who's just pretending to be one. But in 21 days' time, by the Justice Secretary's own admission, we will have two-tier justice. Her plan to fix this won't come into effect for a year. That's unacceptable. As she's been too lazy to do her job, I'll do it for her. Today I am presenting a bill to block these two-tier sentencing guidelines and to fix her mess. It's here, it's ready to go. Will she support it? Will she stand with us on this side of the House for equality under the law? Or will it be two-tier justice with her and two-tier care?
I think the whole House can see that the only pretence at a job is the one that the Shadow Lord Chancellor is doing because he's pretending to be the leader of the opposition. We all know exactly what he is about. And my reaction to what has happened in relation to the Sentencing Council's guidelines was very clear when we did the oral statement last week in this House. We will never stand for a two-tier approach to sentencing. But I am actually getting on with fixing the problem rather than looking for a bandwagon to jump on. That is why I have already written to the Sentencing Council. I will be meeting with them later in this week, and I have made it very clear I will consider their role and their powers, and if I need to legislate, I will do so, but I will make sure that whatever changes I bring forward are workable and they deliver the fair justice system that we all need and deserve, and one his government did not deliver.
The Sentencing Council fired back at the accusations, saying ministers from both the Tories and Labour had 15 chances to object. In the letter to Shabana Mahmood, it said neither party had expressed any concerns. Anxiety has been growing about the emergence of a two-tier justice system since COVID, when anger erupted as anti-lockdown protesters appeared to be treated more harshly than BLM protesters. And that has continued with the pro-Palestine protests and the response to the summer riots after the Southport killings. The issue sparked interest abroad. Elon Musk weighed in over a reluctance to investigate the grooming gang scandal.
There's also a shocking amount of censorship. You may have seen in Britain, I kid you not, how can this be real? They are releasing convicted pedophiles from prison in order to put people in prison for Facebook posts.
But to be fair, those are posts that criticize the government, so they have a good reason.
Well, they would actually, some of these posts that at least the ones I've seen, didn't actually criticize the government, or they were seen as sort of as hate speech.
Right.
So
because they noticed the society getting crappier and crappier with every year, and they said so.
Yeah. I mean, there were, and this is I'm simply stating a fact, there were migrant rape gangs in England that would run around and prey on young girls, gang rape them, and some people found that objectionable, which obviously it should be objectionable, and they were upset about that, and so they complained about it online and were sent to prison.
And J.D. Vance warned about the government's restrictions on free speech.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat. An offer.
Look, I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies. But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time.
The Sentencing Council argues ethnic minorities receive longer sentences, but figures reveal foreigners are much more likely to be arrested. Is this due to racism or due to a higher propensity to commit crimes?
These are fairly startling numbers on the face of it, that we do see an overrepresentation from these groups with these crimes.
We do, and it's interesting. First to say, this whole subject is not an academic one for me. I'm a foster parent, and we've looked after children who've been on the receiving end of sexual violence and rape. And so we've always got to put the victims at the heart of this and to see what better support we can give them. Second thing to say is, whoever you are, wherever you're from, we need to prosecute you if you've committed a crime, particularly a sexual crime against children or vulnerable people. And we're not prosecuting enough people. In London in 2023, there were over 10,000 rape, assault reports, but only 1,400 arrests. So something's going wrong, and there's a massive backlog in the system for prosecutions. But the interesting thing for me is we've heard a lot recently that the police system, or there's been an accusation that the police system is two-tier or it's woke. And if you're a foreigner, you're less likely to be prosecuted. Actually, these statistics tell us if you're a foreigner, you're 3 times more likely to be prosecuted.
Well, hang on. It also could tell us that you're 3 times more likely to commit that offence.
Well, it's telling you how many people have been arrested. It's not telling you how many offences have been taking place. So it could tell either way. It depends on which way you want to interpret it. When we look at other statistics, for example, that in London, you're 4 times more likely to be stopped and searched if you're black than if you're white. That tells us there's something going wrong in policing, doesn't it? So it could be, and that's
does
the problem
that tell
with
us
these
that there's
statistics.
something going wrong in policing? Because the police always say, when that statistic is put out, they say that the hit rate, for want of a better term, for stop and search is precisely equal between white Londoners and black Londoners. That is, for the proportion of stop and searches that find a knife or drugs or something or whatever is entirely proportional, even though proportionally more black people are stopped and searched.
Which is odd, isn't it? You're more likely to be stopped and searched. There are less black people than white people in London. So
but the hit rate is exactly the same.
Complicated to interpret, aren't they?
I think we're ignoring the point here, though, because we've got a little chart here. And yes, you are absolutely right to point out that this is arrests, not convictions, this data. So there may well be some of these arrests don't end up being, convicted of that crime. They may well be innocent. But if you look at this, arrests per 1,000 of the population, Albania is at the top. 210 arrests per 1,000 people. I mean, that is crazy. Then you've got Afghanistan, Iraq, Algeria, Congo, Morocco, Somalia, and it goes on. There's a problem there, isn't there?
Well, when it comes to Albanians, our government, previous government and this current government have got a very clear system now that if you commit a crime, you're from Albania, you will be returned. And that's something they're trying to institute right across the board here.
Barrister Stephen Barrett says unless Shabana Mahmood stops the changes going through, they'll become law on 1st of April and blind, equal justice will come to an end in Britain.
Unless she actually uses the powers she has, it's still going to happen. So we have what I call performative governments at the moment. She tried it in the beginning. So this came out. Obviously, anybody with half a brain can tell that this is wrong. It's deeply immoral and nobody wants it. It's against the rule of law.
Just to quickly explain it, for anybody who's not seen what the story is.
So it's the idea that judges will be told to get pre-sentencing reports, i.e. these reports that make your sentence lesser, that are more generous to you, they're kinder to you. If you get one, if you're ever a criminal, it'll be nicer for you. If you get one of these pre-sentencing reports, that's where suggestions of not going to prison will come from. You'll get one of these if you have from an ethnic minority, a cultural minority, and there were certain other, I mean, women get them apparently also by default, and that's another question for you, actually. What I do as a lawyer is say that this is fundamentally a political question. Who gets softer treatment by the justice system is a fundamentally political question. So it's really for you. It's not for lawyers to tell you. That's the mistake the Sentencing Council is making. You know, it's how your society and our society is structured how we want our society to be. And that's not really for these alleged experts to sit there in some ivory tower pontificating. But when it came out, Shabana Mahmood's instant response was, oh, well, the Sentencing Council's got nothing to do with me. I can't possibly. And it's just, you are the Lord Chancellor. You are the Minister of Justice. Can we please grow up in this country and admit that our politicians have real and serious political power? She then, when I felt like she had to be pushed kicking and screaming to do this, but she did send a letter saying that she was terribly disappointed. So the Sentencing Council will, on Monday morning, open a letter saying, I'm terribly disappointed. Whether her being terribly disappointed or not changes anything, I don't know. What she should really do is abolish the Sentencing Council. Take these powers back.
So this is a quango that was started under Blair.
Under Blair, 2003. Changed its name a bit later, but it effectively begins in 2003. And it's this philosophical idea that a council of experts will always get everything right. You don't need to listen to the public. And I'm a Democrat, so I'm fundamentally against this idea. I think it's absolute tosh. And really, they're just proving me right. Every one of these little quangos that goes out and does something completely disconnected from what ordinary people think, they just prove me right. And it's the Sentencing Council, they're the ones that are the reasons that the people with all the paedophilic images don't go to prison. Now, I'm sorry, I'm dropping this on you as a bomb, but I mean, I raise this quite often with I raise it on telly as much as I can. I take the view that if you're a possession of paedophilic images, you should go to prison. And I think that's probably the majority feeling in this country. And I think that's probably where most of us are. If you have kids or are around kids, you want to protect kids. You know, it's simply, I don't believe that any of us would get to the position where mass possession of paedophilic images would not go to prison. But that's what the Sentencing Council think.
Yeah, and this...
Why are they picking?
And it's coming from them and their suggestions. So you also have this mad situation where you have people, like you say, owning paedophilic images, not going to jail, but you have people putting out a meme going to jail for a couple of years.
Yes.
Which is where this idea of two-tier justice comes from. Now, of course, when people were saying two-tier justice last summer with the riot, it was a right-wing conspiracy. Now it's become emboldened and, you know, enshrined in law, really.
Well, it's true. So I'm fed up of people calling things conspiracy theories if they're true.